Combat sports in general is a very, very difficult sport to referee because you got two athletes that are incredibly fast, incredibly explosive, trying to get the better of each other whilst trying to stay within rules and regulations. I believe MMA is the most difficult one though, because it does have open-fingered gloves due to the wrestling aspect. Unlike boxing, where you're fully covered, your hands fully covered, and MMA, you have your fingers that are not covered. And it's caused a bunch of problems throughout its history, and very, very often. As a matter of fact, one of the most hated foul in my book that I hate, it's my pet peeve that I just hate the eye pokes. The eye pokes completely ruin how a fight goes. And it's very common. But there's two big reasons why I absolutely despise this foul over another common one, such as an inside kick that lands in the groins, a groin strike. There's two reasons why I think the eye poke is just absolutely annoying. First main reason is because it's completely avoidable by the offending fighter. Oftentimes the way an eye poke happens is because they are pawing out, measuring distance with their fingers completely extended out towards their opponent. They know clearly the rules state and whatnot before they even fight about eye pokes and all kinds of little things, right? So for a fighter to be extending their fingers to measure distance versus measuring distance just simply with their hand out, I mean their closed hand, is beyond me. It's completely avoidable, and refs are pretty much failing to do anything about it. Reason number two why I hate it is because the referees have continuously and often failed to prevent the eye poke or to discourage a fighter from committing these eye pokes. How many times in every card, in every single fight night card, do we see some sort of eye poke happening? And to be honest, let's just take it a little step further. The refs fail at their jobs. How many times do they fail to call an eye poke, despite it actually being called often? What I mean by this is a lot of times they don't even catch the eye poke. It's not until a fighter reacts, they turn around and they fold over and they grab their face or their eye, that a ref notices in that second, rushes in there, stops, puts a pause to the action, and allows a fighter to recover, gives them their 5 minutes, and usually gives a very lenient warning to the fighter that was offending with the eye poke. Now, to go a little further on that second reason why I don't like it is that there's just not enough punishment. It is very lenient, like I mentioned, very lenient. Hey, wash your fingers, said fighter. We all know that the rules get explained to the fighters before they fight in the locker room. This is a fact, and it's not unknown. This is very common. So if you commit an eye poke, if you have your hand extended and you commit an eye poke, this is technically your second warning. Why isn't a fighter getting a point deducted upon the second warning? And keep in mind, a foul or the eye poke does not need to happen in order for you to pause the action and give a very stern, fair warning to offending fighter. Hey, you keep extending your fingers, next time I see them, you're going to get a point deducted. I believe if referees actually did their job, they would highly discourage fighters from committing these space gauging, that they're gauging just their distance. Same thing when the fighter comes in, they already have their hand extended, and the fighter comes in, throws their 1-2, and the first thing they do is just kind of even extend further, their arm further, to measure distance yet again. And usually that's when we see the eye pokes, because the fighter's coming into the eye poke. Also, insult to injury, or if you prefer it, adding salt to an open wound. He even goes as far as to saying, hey, you don't throw, you don't overreact like that and fold over and turn around and expect the ref to save you. You got to keep going. And he uses his kids as a example. Hey, when you're in wrestling, things are gonna happen and you just can't react in a certain way just because you got fouled. You got to keep going. You got to keep going. Pretty much talking down on Bruno Silva's heart. There's also a quick mention about Bruno Silva, him hearing that Bruno Silva has already appealed the win. But Chris Weidman, which I found very interesting, said that referees and certain other staff have already assured him, almost assured him, that even if the appeal goes through, it won't go down as a DQ because the ref technically stopped the match because of the eye poke. Bruno Silva couldn't continue, so it would go to the scorecards, which he was comfortably winning according to him. He even mentions they might even take a point off away, which would be for the third round, but I still round one and two. So he's perfectly comfortable with the appeal because regardless, he wins the fight. Listen, I know Chris Weidman is highly respected in the MMA community for what he's done and the amazing fights that he's been in. But ever since he suffered that broken leg, he has not performed the same. And understandably and logically, that's understood. It is not news that Chris Weidman has never looked the same after his horrific leg break. He has actually came back already, and he has lost. This guy is in desperate need. He wants a victory so bad that he's even willing to over-celebrate this one as if it was a clean victory. A lot of fans and people in the MMA community has spoken the same opinion that I have. A huge distaste of his celebrating this victory and seeing as a legit win. Not just that, but even more of a dislike now after he just completely tries to reason everything that happened in that fight. The eye pokes, questioning Bruno Silva's heart, and that, hey, people forget that I got eye poked too. Me too, but I didn't go down. I mean, it is just absolutely disgusting coming from a former champion. But like I said, he's holding on to this victory because it's his only victory in such a long time. He finally tasted it, and he's gonna hold on to it, god damn it, no matter what. In some ways, Chris is correct, but not when you intentionally keep poking people's eyes and then masking it. And he even admits it. I use my open hand as a way to properly gauge my distance. He actually admits it, and even goes as to explain as to why he does it, because the glove is too uncomfortable. He has to exert force to close his fist, to keep his fist from having his fingers extended. Sounds like a you problem, Chris. Doesn't mean that you get to make that as an excuse and just poke everybody's fucking eyeballs out. Anywho, until the refs decide to be more stricter and give out more punishments, point deductions, probably even disqualifications, more like they rightfully should be doing, we're gonna keep seeing the Chris Weidmans, and we're gonna keep seeing the John Jones completely eye poking everybody and changing the course of fights.